Bhupen, senior journalist who is the founder of squirrel.in. And Bhupen, in the social media era, I think everyone can publish whatever he or she wants. So we have, several websites and, dedicated pages which publish only fake news, okay? And politicians, they can convince people about conspiracy theories and falsehood. Where do media organizations stand, in the post-truth era?
Well, let me first thank the organizers and Dr. Batra for organizing yet another spectacular event. It's always a pleasure to be coming for events which are organized by Dr. Batra. And let me also say that what a great pleasure to be speaking immediately after a fantastic presentation which has been done by Shubhranshu. In an ideal world, I would have loved to have a go at Shubhranshu on pretty much everything that he has said, but that's us. You've used two important phrases. And while I was listening to Mr. Singh, I was just asking this question to myself, that when the Indian Parliament had to be built, which brand did we go with? We went with the Tata stamp, right? There are 1,000 infrastructure builders in this country. But if I was to ask you that, where is that most credible, most authentic, almost equal to the Tata brand, digital entity? Let's look at the biggest of them all. Let's look at Meta, let's look at Google. Last night, I don't know how many of you saw a fantastic conversation which is taking place between Elon Musk and the former US President Donald Trump. And repeatedly, the question that was being raised was this, that is this an attempt to further polarize a sense of bias which exists within our society? Is this an attempt somewhere to inject something which doesn't exist? I know the House of Tatas exist. I know the products which the House of Tatas is associated with. But when I'm using something on Meta, I'm using something, some feature of Instagram, or Twitter for that matter, and now X, always you are confronted with this challenge of authenticity. I'll give you an example. Fake news to bahut dur ki baat hai. Let me give you something which again, I have great respect for marketing people. Because they have this unique ability, of selling you something, which you may or may not be completely convinced about. And Shubhranshu, I think, is a master of that. Just a couple of days back, I was traveling with my daughter in my car, and like many of you here, I've read Harry Potter, I've seen the movies, but it's not by no stretch of imagination I'm some crazy, mad, addictive fan of Harry Potter. My daughter and I were having a chat on Harry Potter. Some of you perhaps have been a part of a Twitter town hall, a Twitter digital town hall that I do, Twitter Spaces, X Spaces now. Now, in the settings of your phone, it asks you for permission to use your microphone if you are organizing a digital town hall. Many of us perhaps don't realize it, but that microphone remains on 24 hours of the day. I kid you not, and I was so amazed. I thought, this is what technology is. 1 hour into that conversation on Harry Potter with my daughter, I suddenly get a message in my DM from a handle of Harry Potter fans. It was a registered, verified, that yellow tag, which is meant for organizations. I get a message in my DM that I've just followed you. Would you be kind enough to follow me? I have never, ever tweeted about Harry Potter in my life. I have never, ever put up any Instagram post, any Facebook post on Harry Potter. But 1 hour into that conversation with my daughter and Harry Potter, which must have been around 10 to 15 minutes, because she was going somewhere, she was meeting some friends, and there was some social context about that. That's the sort of, the flip side to technology. All the advantages have been laid out by Shubhranshu. And I'm not one of those who believes that you should not engage with AI. By all means, we must engage with AI. But I think we must ask ourselves this question, that is AI, as addictive as it might be, as accessible and as easy to use as it might be now, is it taking us deeper and deeper into an ecosystem where we're moving further and further away from truth? You go into WhatsApp's Meta, the Lima tool which has been built. Yeah, you can ask them any questions. You want to know, do you want to be a society which wants to know which is the nearest bar to me? Or do you want to be the society which wants to know that if SEBI chairperson is being accused of something, well, hey, what's the real story, right? I would choose the latter. I would like to believe that any democracy in this world can only grow into a mature democracy, into a democracy based on strength, only and only if the premium is on trust and credibility. Therefore, to my mind, Shubhranshu Singh as representative of Tata matters far more rather than Shubhranshu Singh saying maybe as a great exponent and great expert of everything which is associated with AI.
Yeah, wonderfully put. And I'll come back to my main question again. What should media organizations do to ensure the credibility, trust, and originality
It's
in the
broken.
post-truth era?
I'll be very honest, I've done television now for 2 decades of my life and now run a digital platform called squirrels.in. And I have absolutely no qualms in stating it upfront. I think particularly television media has lost the plot, right? In a market, in a society where there is chaos, there are advantages, there are disadvantages, to be subjected every night to a dosage of how many Hindus have been killed in Bangladesh or how many Khalistanis are doing what in some obscure street of Canada or London, it's not even tamasha anymore. You see, when it started off by another illustrious colleague of ours who now runs his own network, I don't want to name anybody, well, in the aftermath of 26/11, when the Mumbai terror strikes happened, there was a certain novelty to it, right? The novelty ends up being copied. And that copy now is so crass. It's so devoid of any merit, any substance, that you ask yourself this question, that is it really worth your time? In fact, I sometimes wonder, I go to many of these sessions and there is one phrase which is often used by smart marketing professionals who say that the business model of television Saab is broken. Business model is broken. So what do you do? If the business model is broken, I ask myself that, boss, what is the step being taken to change that business model? Because you don't want to move away from something that you've been doing now, over the last decade and a half. Therefore, I think it's a very convenient exit route to take. That, I can't fix it because guess what? Business model is broken. So what do you have? Every year, you will now see these headlines and some platforms, will report on it. There are X number of layoffs from this big media entity. And largely, it's all television channels. Anurag, I was thinking about it. You look at Times of India, look at Indian Express, look at Hindustan Times. The political editors, the special correspondents have remained the same over a period of time. But it's only in television, and that too in Indian television. I'm all for change, right? I'm all for change. I'm all for new talent to be promoted, by all means. But if it ends up becoming an industry practice that every 2 years you have to necessarily get into some layoff business, then I think there's something more fundamentally flawed. And that fundamental flaw is related to authenticity, is related to credibility. You're not building credibility. You're not building trust. You're living in an environment where we've just now seen the back of these Lok Sabha elections. How the hell is it possible that every pollster in this country gets the elections wrong? It's impossible. It's possible only and only when you really stop looking at the granularity of what's in front of you. And I'm equally responsible, by the way. I'm no holier than thou, please. I'm as guilty as I'm a beneficiary. I'm as guilty. Because right through this Lok Sabha election, I was seeing in front of me that there was no way that the BJP could have got a majority. But we were so blinded by the AI tools, by the sophistication of a political communication, that even when you're seeing that the sun is setting, you're unwilling to acknowledge it. The sun is setting.
So you basically mean to say that surveys were not based on the actual survey among the people, but on AI tools?
I kid you not. Okay, let me share an anecdote with you. I think this was 2018, 2019. Punjab Assembly elections were around. I used to be with Network 18 at that time. We were actually approached by political parties, by candidates, who would say that, look, boss, if you're willing to say this, then this is the price tag that we're willing to pay. Now I find that our market is flooded with what you describe to be political consultants. Whether you're an MLA, whether you're an MP, whether, the most nondescript of all states. I'm in a state like Odisha, let's say, right? I mean, there are people who'll come and they'll say that I run this political consulting company, I can do this survey for you, and I can get X number of platforms to be publishing your survey, and hey, guess what? I can use these AI tools to buy a certain number of views, to build a certain degree of believability. How can trust be bought? I don't think that trust can be bought, and that's why I keep going back to the starter stamp. When the Indian Parliament had to be built, you did not go to any of the contentious companies around with very fat profit margins maybe. You wanted someone because you believed in that trust, right? When you had to sell Air India, as contentious as it may have been, and you ultimately, who did you go to? You went to the House of Tatas. Because you believe that अच्छा कोई कर सकता है तो ये कर सकते हैं. आप दे दीजिए ना, आप दे दीजिए कोई. Why is it that these edtech platforms, which have which all rose to multi-billion-dollar valuations? Look at the state of BHU's. Look at Paytm today, right? Digital ecosystem in India and across the world, according to me, is it's a punt. It's a great, delicious bet to take. But when it actually comes to you feeling very comfortable, you being absolutely certain कि हाँ ये ठीक है, यही चीज़ ठीक है, the touch and feel philosophy, you want to go back exactly to what we say is pure old form conventional models.
So you basically think that House of Tatas, like, they should do a pre-poll or post-poll survey, right?
Well, I mean, if they were doing it, I'm sure there are bodies, in these private companies who do it. I'm not suggesting that the House of Tatas ends up becoming a philological institute. That's not the point. Point I'm making is this, that in a mature democracy, which is based on trust, which is based on credibility, your digital ecosystem is a challenge to that trust. Because a digital ecosystem backed by smart marketing tools has the potential of pulling you away from a direction. Yeah, right. And Shubhranshu has given multiple examples. Netflix, Amazon, you're in the era of predictive algorithms, right? What is X doing? I mean, I only have to, quote tweet 2 tweets of a particular political bent of mine, and I'll be flooded with everything. I can wake up every morning and I can say, acha, yehi ho raha hai duniya mein, right? So is that adding? I mean, so what I do, I try and play these games with these AI tools. So every morning, I'm on Instagram, I'm on X. I pick up 4 tweets, 2 on left, 2 on right, and I tweet both of them. And I put up a comment on both of them just to see how the algorithm then plays with me. And I can see then for the next 3-4 days, my reach will get restricted. Because the algorithm is also trying to play with me. Algorithm wants me to subscribe to a particular bent of mind, and I refuse to do that. And that is, I think to everybody here, I see a lot of young minds, please do not fall into this trap. Mr. Singh is a great communicator, he's a great marketing man, but please do not fall for this lingo. It is jargon. Authenticity is not coming from the AI sophisticated gadgetry tools. Authenticity is coming from the House of Tatas. If the House of Tatas is willing to bless an AI platform, by all means. There was this guy, this Bombay guy, I forget his name, Generic Aadhaar, right? Mr. Deshpande, if I remember his full name. He came to meet me. And he came to meet me with the authority of the House of Tatas. And he had come to meet me 6 months before that also when, when he was looking around for something. Vijay Shekhar Sharma, Paytm, House of Tatas, decides to invest in him, and suddenly he becomes this big guy. Why? I mean, let a bunch of digital, platforms come together and let them all say that now we've got this, let's say 6 of the most influential with the biggest reach in news space, all these digital platforms can come together. And let them get hold of credibility, let them get hold of authenticity.
Beautiful proposition, I think, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I'm waiting to see, how's that going to happen? There have been various bodies which have been created, right? But still, either you have a commercial question, either you end up having a commercial question against those alliances, or you end up having a question of credibility. For both to coexist, I think it's very, very important for us to continue to challenge this entire ecosystem, this entire landscape, of sophisticated AI and sophisticated technology.
Yeah, I think you are, raising, pertinent questions about algorithm. Many people have, talked about this. What is the way forward? I mean, do you think the government should, launch some kind of probe? What should be done to To understand their algorithms.
you look at the government's plight. Unfortunately, the government comes up with this broadcast bill, which has now been withdrawn, right? So, which I'm sure Mr. Batra can organize another event at some stage to bring in all the stakeholders. I think what is of paramount importance is first and foremost for people to realize, we are the end consumers. This used to be stated about television at one stage. Wherever I'd go, people would say that, oh, if you don't like a particular program, you don't like a particular anchor, you don't like me, switch off. You have the power of remote. That debate and that challenge, I think, has gone far beyond the level of just switching off the remote or moving away from one channel to the other. I think what is of paramount importance is for people to realize the world of AI, the world of algorithms is not necessarily adding to your knowledge base. For you to add to your knowledge base, please go to bookstores, right? And there were some good recommendations. I recommend Age of Surveillance Capitalism. I've also, read that book. And a lot of questions, a lot of formulations which come to my mind on multiple occasions only comes because I read. If I was to give anybody any suggestion, I would say there is nothing, absolutely nothing, that beats a good book being read. A good book, authored well, researched well, with reference points, can never ever, no matter, you can write. We use this platform called invideo.ai, to create videos. It's text to video. And it says that you can give a description of 25,000 words. You pay only 2,000 rupees per month as a subscription fee. Versus a craft editor who you'll end up paying 1 lakh, per month. So as a business person, I will say, if I put on my business ad, I'll say, yaar, mujhe kya zarurat hai? I'll put on my 25,000, I'll write my script, and then I'll simply put that script into that algo, and lo and behold, that video will be there. But, in that video also, then there can be some challenges, etc. And often we've tested it. Often we've tried it. If you put in a false information, I say you're not Kanchan, you're XYZ, the algo is not going to correct me. Right? It'll publish that false information. So now, again, using sophisticated tools, you can create very, very believable graphics. The same number, I don't know how many of you read the RBI sentiment analysis, which comes out every quarter. Please do. It's a great insight into what is actually happening around you. And you will see that each and every statistic will end up being interpreted in both ways. There'll be extreme praise and there'll be extreme criticism, when it comes to interpretations. So please try and equip yourself with two sides. There is no one side. The world of algos wants to push you on one side. If you have to be smart, and and if you really want to irrigate your mind, as one of my former superiors would say, please see to it that you are familiarizing yourself at least with both sides of the coin.
Yeah, wonderful, I guess. But Bhupen, I would like to know, what do you do when you get, conflicting information from 2 or 3 different sources? As an editor, what do you do?
So first and foremost, I don't believe everything, blindsided, whatever comes on Twitter or Facebook. Right? There are all kinds of videos. Now, X has started off with this thing. I'll give you latest example. Abhi khabar aayi ki 28 islands from Maldives have been bought by the Indian government, right? And it made its way to television channels because somebody had put something up, and it was all very believable. A very nice headline, very nice images, and 28 islands have been bought. X on its own, through its community notes now, is now negating that. Saying that these 28 islands have not been bought by India. The context, the reference point was something else. So to all my friends, all my peers who decided that this was good enough, you take it. Let's make an attempt. Let's do some basic journalism. As you would say, if I want to publish something, my thumb rule is simple. If I want to publish something which is associated with a ministry, with a specific genre, with a specific vertical, I make 2 calls. I always make 2 calls to someone who's a domain expert of that field. I refuse to believe what is directly coming up either on Twitter, either on X, or on Facebook, or on WhatsApp.
Yeah, very interesting, yeah. And Bhupen, although TV is not your domain as of now, but have you gone through the draft broadcasting bill? And why do you think the government has withdrawn it now?
Well, if I was to tell you that I have, then I'll have to reveal the number also, because all these copies which are circulated with the stakeholders had a specific number.
How many copies, by the way?
Well, there were quite a lot.
Okay.
Let me just say this, I think the reason why it's been withdrawn is as much the content of the bill itself, because it led to a lot of criticism, as it is that this is a government which is not a majority government. You know, if this was a government where the BJP was a 303, I don't know, maybe this bill would have, would have been pushed. This is a different political ecosystem, and therefore great time for journalists like us, and great time for fact checkers who are also, completely polarized left or right, because fact checkers are also dependent on all these AI tools. So I think that the reason why, in bullet points, if you ask me, firstly, in a complicated, diverse, complicated country like India, this one-size-fitting-all does not work, right? What is working in Tamil Nadu may not necessarily work in Uttar Pradesh, and vice versa. So there were a lot of recommendations which I think put the entire exercise as a bad exercise, as something which needed to be relooked at, and I think that's a fundamental reason. Freedom of expression in our great country, no matter what, is sacrosanct. You go to a pan shop in Banaras, where I come from, or you go to a swanky restaurant in Khan Market, or in Tamil Nadu, or Bangalore, or wherever, we all love chaos. And chaos, the biggest strength of chaos, the biggest points of chaos comes from if you have more knowledge. If you can't counter-argue, what I'm trying to say, then how are you really building yourself to be a mature democracy?
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bhupen.
Thank you. Thank you.